The resurrection, fact or fable?
Jesus' followers wrote that he appeared alive to them after his crucifixion. They claim not only to have seen him, but also to have eaten with him, touched him, and spent 40 days with him. So could this have simply been a story that grew over time, or is it based upon solid evidence? The answer to this question is foundational to Christianity. For if Jesus did rise from the dead, it would validate everything he said about himself, about the meaning of life, and about our destiny after death. If the resurrection account of Jesus is not true, then Christianity would be founded upon a lie. The theologian R.C. Sproul put it this way: the claim of resurrection is vital to Christianity. If Christ has been raised from the dead by God, then he has the credentials and certification that no other religious leader possesses. Buddha is dead, Muhammad is dead, Moses is dead, Confucius is dead, but according to Christianity, Jesus is alive. There is enough historical evidence that Jesus lived and died. There are 3 non-Christian historians mention the death of Jesus. What is the evidence that proves Jesus rose from the dead? Number 1, the self-prophecy. In advance of his death, Jesus told his disciples that he would be betrayed, arrested, and crucified, and that he would come back to life 3 days later. Jesus had no control over what his enemies did to him. They killed him as he predicted. He also rose as he predicted, despite the disciples not believing him or understanding what he was predicting. Number 2, the number of eyewitnesses. According to the eyewitness accounts, all of the disciples saw Jesus on more than 10 separate occasions. They wrote that he had showed them his hands and feet and told them to touch him. And he reportedly ate with them and later appeared alive to more than 500 followers on one occasion. If only a couple of people saw Jesus, you could believe in the possibility of a conspiracy. But getting 500 people to make a false accusation is not possible. If it was a conspiracy, the truth would come out. Third, the disciples' response. How did the frightened, cowardly disciples go from denying Christ to being so confident about who he was and that he had risen and that they were prepared to die for him, even be tortured to death? The radical change of the disciples is impossible to explain unless Jesus did rise from the dead. Even if they all conspired to lie about Jesus' resurrection, how could they have kept that conspiracy going for decades without at least one of them selling out for money or for a position? Something happened that changed everything for these men and women, that they were prepared to die for Christ. Dr. Simon Greenleaf was one of the world's leading legal scholars who wrote some of the rules of evidence for the US judicial system. He started out as a skeptic, but when challenged by students to use his own rules of evidence to investigate the resurrection, Greenleaf was so persuaded by the evidence that he became a committed Christian. He believed that any unbiased person who honestly examines this evidence, as in a court of law, they would conclude what he did, that Jesus Christ has truly risen.